Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we are talking about the Tier 10 French tech line heavy cruiser, the Henri IV, or as I like to call her, the original super cruiser. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you guys remember, before we had the, actual super ships like the Conda and the Annapolis and the Satsuma and stuff, we started to get the what I called and many a player called super cruisers like the Alaska, the Kronstadt, the Stalingrad, so forth and so on. Cruisers with extremely large guns to be fitted onto a cruiser, but not quite large enough to be considered battleship caliber guns. Before all of that was even starting to make its way into the game, we had the Henri IV, which for a very long time had the largest guns mounted on a cruiser in this game, at least on a tech line ship. Yes, I know there's the Graf Spee, but I mean, that's the Graf Spee. So, the Henri IV, she came out back in, I think it was like 6.3, 6.4-ish. She came out around the time I started to not really do YouTube, but I started to play the game. I remember reading about it in the old startup menu. So the Henri IV is a ship that I grinded out early on, but I never really played too much of because she didn't really fit my playstyle early on. I started to play her more so about a year or so ago, and I really started to get back into this ship quite recently because, again, it's one of my lesser played high-tier cruisers. I just want to talk about my experiences with her back then versus now, and especially talking about her way back. And this ship has gone through quite a lot of change, and a lot of the global changes that have come to the game have affected this ship quite a lot too, and also a lot of the new content and ships that have been added into the game. And it's crazy looking back on the Henri here, which again used to have the largest guns attached to a tech line cruiser, and where she is now. And that's what we're going to do today. So let's go through and look at her stats real quick, and I'll also mention, some of the stats that were changed and such as we're going through her. So to get started, she of course has 9 240mm guns. That's 9.45 inches for you Americans out there, fellow Americans out there. So again, biggest tech line cruiser guns for a very long time. I still do think they are the largest tech line cruiser guns, because the Goliath has 234s. It's just that her HE is crazy. I'm gonna get into that here in a moment. Oh no, I'm sorry, the Golden Lou is a thing now, so yeah, that's out the window. But anyway, so her 9 240mm guns, with the build that I have on her, which I'll throw up here. I should have thrown it up at the beginning. They have a reload time of 11.4 seconds with the reload mod. If you do take that off, you'll be dealing with a base reload time of, I believe, 13 seconds flat, which really isn't bad considering how large the guns are. So they reload in 11.4 seconds with the mod, 13 without. They 180 if you have the skill, in 32 seconds. Without the skill, 37 seconds. Maximum dispersion with the mod on of 153 meters, and a maximum range of 19.1 kilometers. If you do want to fit the range mod on, that can get you out over 20 kilometers, which is pretty nice, but for the purposes of random battle, especially random battles farming, I do keep the reload module on. And again, we'll talk more about how I play the ship here in a moment. So her HE, which is definitely the highlight of the ship, she has a maximum damage of 3,400. You have a 24% chance of causing a fire with the skill and the flags on, which is pretty nice considering how fast you can get this ship's guns reloading. And they pin 40mm. Now, that's very important because in, I think, 11.4, the Petropavlovsk is getting her deck and casemate armor nerfed down by 10mm, which will bring it within Henri's pin. Which, that's going to be fun for those Petro captains, but that's a big pickup. And back in the day when Stalingrad first came out and she was being spammed in clan battles, the old switcheroo was to run 7 Henris with IFHE and just farm the crap out of the Stalingrads. Again, there's a benefit to having 240mm guns. And the HE comes out the tubes at 845 meters a second. The AP does a maximum damage of 6,510, and those come out the tubes too at 845 meters a second. And the AP is definitely good on the Henri IV. Anytime something gives you broadside like a cruiser or a battleship, it is ideal to switch over to AP, especially if you're at a closer range, and start pumping AP into their side, because with most of the cruisers in this game, you will citadel the crap out of them. It still does have, again, good AP. It's just that the HE is also so good, and with some of the tools she has, it's definitely worth it to bait out those fires and then start more. Again, we'll get there on a second. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. She does have 12 127mm secondary guns. This is not a secondary ship by any stretch of the imagination, even though the range is out to 8.7 kilometers now since the rework, but they're more of serving dual purpose for AA, which... yeah, it's pretty lackluster anyway. Before I go any further, let me go ahead and go over her armor. Kind of forgot to do that at the front. Got too excited talking about her guns. She has a 25mm bow, 25mm bow plate. Her mid deck is 30mm. Stern deck is 25, as is the stern plating as well. Her upper belt armor is 30mm. Her torpedo protection is 30mm as well. You strip away her external armor, and her citadel is exposed above the waterline and has a 45mm plating. So it's not an exceptionally well armored cruiser, but if you've been playing this game and have encountered French cruisers, you do know that they do have the French baguette space armor that for some reason, when you think the shells are like going to pin, like they're very shallow, at a very shallow angle to you, you think the shells are going to for sure pin, and they overpin or bounce or get eaten by the void in between the Henri's armor plates. It's wonderful, wonderful spaghetti code and geometry. I'm not saying the ship is like tanky thanks to its black hole armor. It's not. It's just that more often than not, your shells do the opposite of what you think. The same note too, when you think the shells are going to overpin, you get a random double citadel and remove half the ship's health. It's a mystery of World of Warships. And its survivability, she has 58,300 hit points with, again, the build that I have on her. That's with Survivability Expert with Abignon and his improved SE. And she has 19% torpedo damage reduction. Alright, moving on to her torpedoes. She gets 2x3 550mm torps with a 90-second reload time. These torps have a range of 9 kilometers. They do 14,833 maximum damage, and they travel at 60 knots and are detected by sea from 1.3 kilometers. Definitely not a torp boat. If you're passing a channel and you want to discourage a ship from pushing around the channel, pushing around the island, they can be used for that, but they do only have a 9-kilometer range. It's not like it's a Yoshino with a 20-kilometer torp range or anything like that. It's a nice self-defense tool and like method of last resort if you really need to try and sink something like competitive. You have a ship here that's pretty fast that can close the gap fairly quickly, and you can shove torpedoes down somebody's throat, but you do only have 3 of them, and it's not like you can remove a full health battleship from existence. But if you need to finish someone off, you can definitely rush them and use the torps for that. Other than that, they're mostly for self-defense if you get in a very wonky situation. A defense, it's absolutely mediocre. Even with DFAA, like with DFAA, you can discourage a CV from coming back, but most high-tier CVs, especially like the Nakamov today, they really don't give a crap. Maneuverability, this is her highlight. Her base speed is 36.8 knots, and her acceleration time used to be great. This is where some of the really, really painful changes start to come to the Henri. So the Henri used to have an absolutely just nuts acceleration time from dead stop to full speed in 40-second space. That's pretty good. Then from dead stop to full reverse, 20-second space. That's pretty good. But then in 9.0, they decided, nope, you can't do that anymore. We're going to darn near double your acceleration time. 40 to 70 seconds in forward, 20 to 60 seconds in reverse. They give it battleship acceleration, which is so painful after playing this ship like it was played for so long. Which with the good acceleration and deceleration used to be able to throttle juke to your heart's content in this thing, which means that you could go forward a little bit, slam it in reverse, go forward a little bit more, slam in reverse, play with your throttle, set it at different speeds, and you would be the bane of many a battleship's existence. But after they did that, she was nowhere near as good as she once was. But again, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. So detectability by sea, 13 kilometers with the module and with the commander. And for her consumables, she has quite a few. Get a choice of Hydro or DFAA. Hydro that detects ships at 5 kilometers and torpedoes at 3.5 kilometers. Engine boost that gives you a 20% boost to your maximum speed. That's active for 180 seconds. And reloads in 85.5 seconds. You get 4 charges of that with Superintendent. You get a repair party that repairs 349 HP per second. Active for 28 seconds. Reloads in 76 seconds. And then a consumable she was randomly given a little while after she was released was the main battery reload booster, her and the other French cruisers too, which gives you a 50% boost to your main battery reload time and is active for 15 seconds. You can get about 5 volleys off with this boost being active. Alright, so that's her stats. How does she play? Well, like I was just mentioning when I got ahead of myself, the Henri IV used to be an absolute god at throttle juking. Like I said, you play with your throttle, speed up, slow down, throw off the enemy shots. Even just base, again, she had excellent acceleration, deceleration time. When you put the propulsion mods on there and get that down by 50%, it's nuts how fast the ship would accelerate and decelerate, and from long ranges she was almost impossible to hit unless you could call the Henri's jukes. You can kind of see the pattern that the commander is going with, because even if you're trying to be random, you as a human being will probably still get set into a pattern of accelerating, decelerating, and vice versa. And when they did that, that took the last thing that the Henri did better than all the other cruisers that have been added since her release away from her. Since her addition in the game, we got the Goliath, which just has straight up better HE than the Henri. The Goliath can pin freaking 59 millimeters of armor without IFHE. Which, again, without IFHE, so you don't have to take that knock to your fire chance. You've got cruisers that have smaller guns than her but hit harder, like the Moskva and the Petropavlovsk and such. And now she maneuvers like a battleship. So the last thing that she had, her maneuverability, her ability to just be the best at throttle juking, is now gone, which really sucked when that happened. And they have started to tone down that nerf a bit. I think most recently her acceleration was kind of buffed back towards her original one, to where the time to reach full speed is now 60 seconds in forward and 50 seconds in reverse. Still not as good as it used to be, but it certainly helps her stand out a little bit more, because truly, why would you want to take the Henri IV anymore if not just for nostalgia? Because again, we got the Goliath with better HE, we've got actual super cruisers now that are, again, a blur between battleship and cruisers, and so many new tech line ships that, again, do what she does but better, that why take her? And the addition of the reload booster was a nice, gimmick to have for a while, but like gimmicks do, they get Powercrept, and now there are several lines that have reload booster or fast-firing guns with good HE that can deal with destroyers. Now, the way that I play her today in this weird state that she's in, where she's not the best at throttle juking anymore, and the armor, again, it's French space baguette armor that can eat some shells from time to time, but again, that's not something to rely on. I pretty much play her like a IJN cruiser, and the sad thing is that you can play the Zhao and it's kind of better than the Henri. The Henri's got a little bit more going for it in the maneuverability department, but again, there's not really much reason to play this over something like the Zhao or the Goliath, because they just do what she does better. And with the reload booster, I'm sorry, not the reload booster, with the engine booster going, and if you have the propulsion modules on, you can still throttle juke and throw quite a few players off. But again, she's still not as good as she once was doing it, because sure, they have improved her acceleration a bit, but it's still nowhere near what she used to be. And you can throttle juke in something like a Grosser Kerr first, from far enough away and it'll throw someone's shots off. But the Henri used to be like, again, just absolutely like matrixing the shells back in the day, but unfortunately she can't really do that anymore. The main battery guns with the build that I have on them, they still feel pretty nice. I set quite a few fires when I was playing her, and I did quite consistent given that most of the matches I played were fairly short and ran to the normal thing that seems to be happening so much more at higher tier, where you go to one side, there's like 2 ships there, and the 5 other ships with you don't really want to do much about it, so it takes you forever to deal with those 2 ships on your side. Then you got to try and run across the map to the other side and see if you can get some damage or some kills over there. And considering that's a lot of the matches that I had in the Henri, she did pretty well. I think I did 4 or 5 matches with 130,000 damage. I mean, again, the HE is still good. The pins are still pretty decent when you're running into a lot of the more common tech line cruisers and such. Of course, the Petropavlovs, that's going to get nerfed in 11.4, so that's another one you can pin, which will be nice. And the reload booster is still pretty nice. Again, a lot more ships have it now, but still the ability to start a couple fires on a ship exceptionally easy, and then watch their damage con go down, then you pop the reload booster and set 2 or 3 more fires on them. That's always a nice ability to have. And the AP, again, still pretty good. If anything shows you broadside, you can load that up, shove 3 rounds into their side fairly quickly with the reload booster. Again, good thing to have for AP and HE. But again, there's just so many more cruisers that do what this ship does, but better now that there's no real reason to take it. And I think Wargaming really needs to restore its original acceleration, and deacceleration values, because that's what she was good at, and that's, again, about the only thing that she had above the other cruisers. And what I really liked about that, it was something that rewarded skillful gameplay. But again, unfortunately, that's been gone, but who knows? They seem to be listening to players' feedback more and more, so hopefully Wargaming, if you're listening, restore the Zal to her original zippy parameters so we can once have some nice fun in our favorite baguette bolt. So, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Let me know what your thoughts on the Henri IV is. I really don't see too many of them in game anymore. Again, there's so many more cruisers now that do what she does, but better. So let me know what you guys think about her in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Saturday and a wonderful weekend. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 40,000 subs, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Hope you're having a wonderful Saturday. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.